Welcome to the Digital Lounge at the North Carolina Conference of the United Methodist Church here in the Greenville Convention Center here in 2018. I'm sitting here with Reverend Alfred Day, who is the General Secretary of Archives and History. And we just wanted to ask you a couple of questions today. What drives your passion for church history?
I think more than anything else, it's just understanding why things are the way they are. Things don't happen in a vacuum. Things happen in a continuum, a timeline over time. And being involved in history helps to understand why we're dealing with some of the things we're dealing with today, that they don't just drop out of the sky as demonic little problems. They're really the result of a people and struggles and the church's wrestling with being faithful in many different periods of time. I like to think that one of the most important and unsung words in the Christian vocabulary is not a verb, is not a noun, but is a conjunction. It's the word through. And history helps us to understand what we've been through to get to where we are. And our biblical story and the story of the church's history is more than anything else a through story. We're saved through Adam and Eve's brokenness in the garden. We're saved through the waters of a flood in Noah's time. We're saved through the passage through the Red Sea. We're saved through death to resurrection. And again and again and again, history is a telling of that paradigm in our moment in time. And so I'm interested in history because it helps me to understand, and I hope Archives and History and I can help the church to understand some of why things are the way they are, where we've been faithful, where we've fallen short, where we still have work to do, and to continue the journey in faithfulness.
Interesting. It's been said you've been to many United Methodist historical sites. Which ones are your favorite, or share part of your story?
It's one of my jobs.
Yeah.
Just so you know, there are nearly 550 United Methodist historic sites around the world. Wow. And historic sites are places of local significance. Then there are heritage landmarks, or places that have a key story to tell, a key role to play in the denomination's wider history. I feel a little bit like a parent being asked to say which is his or her favorite child, and it's hard. It's really hard to do that. But I would say that one of the ones most recently that I've had an opportunity to celebrate is in Norway. And the place in Norway is called the Trondheim Methodist Church. And the Trondheim Methodist Church, 100 years ago, was a place that gathered the indigenous people of Norway, called Sami, in a Congress that won them national recognition. Sami are almost like Native Americans in the United States. In the same way that Native Americans had a buffalo economy, Sami people in Norway had a reindeer economy. And as the migration of Europe moved up from the south into the north, the Sami were displaced and had no standing in the government. This little Methodist church in Trondheim created space for there to be a Congress that eventually won the Sami people recognition by their government, and also served during World War II as a secret synagogue and allowed in its space Jews before they were taken off to concentration camps, a safe place for meeting and to store their Torah scrolls and sacerdotal materials even after they were gone until after the war and they returned. So that's one that's really fresh in my mind. But as I said, there are 550 historic sites, and I'm embarrassed to say I know that there's some here in North Carolina, and I'm not clicking with what they are. Shame on me. But I can, I can look that up. And another 50 heritage landmark sites. Wow. And when they receive a plaque that designates them a historic site, when they receive notification from General Conference that they've become a heritage landmark, I'm the person that gets to represent the church at the great celebration. So the one in Norway, I was able to be present with the King of Norway, and other Norwegian Methodists, Sami, and national leaders in that celebration.
Wow, very interesting. On a more personal note, out of all the movies and literature that you've read, which character best represents you?
St. Francis would be the first. And St. Francis for his holistic approach to life, spirituality, salvation, personal faith, and social holiness all in the same time. There are people who have written that St. Francis was a Methodist before there were Methodists, because of his wedding of a personal religious experience, and in response to his coming to terms with the love and grace of God in his life, the outward focus to serve the poor, to serve the indigent, to serve the broken, and to live in harmony with nature. All those are very tremendous Wesleyan values, to be sure. And so St. Francis would be one. In a more Methodist way, Charles Wesley, not John. I love Charles' artistry. I love his poetry. John may have been the great organizational detail person. Charles was really the heart and soul of the movement and the teaching because of his poetry, and because of his poetry, set to music. So Charles would be one. And another one would be Francis Asbury on the American side, having rode, it's estimated, more than 200,000 miles on horseback in 44 years of ministry and service in America, from humble beginnings, transformed in his own life by, like so many Methodists, an experience of the grace and love of God in their lives, and then wanting to live that outwardly. But the sheer pioneer spirit and persistence and tenacity of Francis Asbury to ride all those miles, to be that pioneer. I mean, I ride to remote places in an automobile where there are bridges to cross rivers, and there aren't really many hostels for me to, encounter. This guy, traveled the length and breadth of the eastern seaboard on horseback with a pistol and a Bible, and didn't have a bridge. Didn't have a bridge, didn't have a road to travel on, didn't have a highway, had to beg for a place to stay. Very Franciscan, going back to Francis. So I think they would be that would be a trinity for me. Francis, Charles, and Francis.
Well, we usually close our interview asking which Wesley brother is someone's favorite, but you've already answered that for us, so you're all good.
There you go.
Thanks for being with us today. We really appreciate it.
I hope I did well.
For sure. Thanks.